everybody, Mark here. This is very, very strange, as normally I'd have quite a few people in here. On a Thursday I normally teach adults in the morning and children in the afternoon, so it's very strange to be in the studio alone. Well, I've got Ali here behind the camera of course, but it does feel odd, but I hope you're all okay and staying indoors as much as possible. I've just been coming to the studio to do paintings here and there and taking the odd walk for the dogs and things like that, but generally I've been staying in and decorating and stuff like that. So today we're going to do a painting and I'm hoping you're all going to watch it through. I wouldn't really try and get involved in actually following me and trying to paint as I'm doing it, because I think you're going to come unstuck. What will happen is you'll try and do a bit and I'll be talking and then you'll miss the next bit. So it's probably better to watch me through and then you can watch it again on Facebook or later on YouTube when I put it on there, and you can pause it, and that way you can take your time and it will be less stressful. I'm really stressed at the moment because I don't normally paint live, because when you're painting live of course you don't want people to see mistakes, and as you know, as we all know, we do make mistakes, so being a good artist is also about covering your mistakes as well. So, and if you make a splodge on the paper, turn it into a bush or a tree. That's the best thing to do. But I'll get going. I want to show you what paints you're going to need. As I said earlier, the other day, I can't believe how many people that went out to actually, where I was telling people what to get. It went out to 12,500 people. Mad. But anyway, here are the paints you're going to need. So we've got gouache paints. We've got a selection here. I just said get a selection, didn't I? So we've got blue, purple, brown, orange, black, gouache, white, green, yellow, and this colour's called yellow ochre. We've got some acrylics as well, not many. I've only got black and white. That's all I've got of that. And then I've got a handful of chalks. These are really mostly chalks. Some of them are pastels, but it's pretty much the same thing really. Pastel tends to have a little bit more pigment in it, stronger colours, but I've always got by with just chalks, and I use these chalks over the top of the paints when they're dry to do various shading and little details. Just a selection of brushes. I probably won't use all of these. I'll probably just use that one, and maybe that, and maybe that. Maybe use 4 of them. Probably won't use those 2. You can draw the initial. There's not too much to draw on this painting. It's just a few simple lines that go in just to get us ready for doing it. And you can use a pencil lightly, or you can use a chalk. Now I usually use a chalk for a picture like this because you're going to see it easier, I think, and also the chalk will wash away with the paint. As you're painting, it will gradually wash it away, whereas the pencil will always be there, and with some colours you might actually still see the pencil through the paint after the painting's been finished. So the first thing we'll do is draw those simple lines on the page, and then after that we're going to start painting the sky. When you're painting with a group of people, or when a lot of people are watching, you tend to have to paint in a slightly different way as if you were doing just alone. You're trying to keep the palette management simple, and the less washing up and all that messing about, the better. So we'll probably do the sky because it's blue, the mountains first, second, and then the water. Trees and other things can come in over the top later. In fact, we don't even bother drawing the trees yet. We're just going to do some simple lines, no trees, no details, just the main lines that appear in the structure of the painting or the composition. So here we go. So I'm going to start first of all by drawing the line that goes across the page. It's about that far up, and it's just a horizontal line that goes across. And it just goes through there like that. And once we've got that, we can start to put the mountains in. Now, they're going to be like this. Can you see that all right? I hope you can. And the mountain's going to come up from here, like that, and then it's going to go that way. And then you've got another one coming up there, like that, and going off over there somewhere, and maybe another peak just showing itself there. And I'm going to draw some other lines on those mountains, because one side of the mountain has shadow on it, the other side has a lot of strong sunlight. So this is where everything on the left-hand side, the sun's coming from this direction, everything on this side is going to be done in shadow. So I'm going to just do this on the mountain, a few shapes like that. that will be shadow, this side here. It comes down there, in there, and down the side of there, and that will all be shadow later when we paint it. And this will be a shadow here, but a lot of that will be covered because we're going to have a tree up the side. The next thing to do is to do a part of the path which is going to come down through here. And there's the side of the bank. There's going to be a lake here. Here's the bank coming through here, all like that. It's all going to be grasses and stuff. And then we've got this lane, or the track, that comes through here. And as it comes down, it gets wider because it's getting closer to us. And then up here somewhere, there's the top of the track, and then it's going to start to widen here, like that. So you've got that kind of thing going on. There will be a tree up there at the side, lake, flowers and bushes, mountains in the sky. And another tree here. Coming from this bank here, there'll be a tree coming up the side there. So you've got one tree set further back and one tree set a little bit closer. But the first thing to paint is the sky. So the colours we're going to need for the sky are blue. So when you're mixing paint, obviously you're going to need to put enough on the plate to be able to paint all the sky in. But remember I said we're going to be using some of that blue colour for the side of the mountain, and also some of it for the lake. So make sure you're making enough to do all of that. So I'm going to squirt out about that much blue. I'm going to use acrylic white. This is only a very cheap acrylic. I got it on Hope Education, which I was telling you about last Saturday afternoon. Okay, so you can just use a cheap acrylic. It doesn't have to be one of those really, really expensive paints. I find that you can do really good paintings without having to use very expensive paints. You haven't got to worry about that, and expensive brushes. It's all down to you and practice. This is a Gouache White. I'm going to stick some of that with it. The reason I'm doing that is because that acrylic white is very strong. The Gouache White is weaker, but they work quite well together sometimes when you don't want to be too strong and you don't want to be too weak. So I'm going to put the two things there. A little bit of black acrylic. Now obviously this is very strong, the black acrylic, so I won't be using an awful lot of that. Later on we're going to be using gouache. This is yellow ochre, so I'm going to put a little bit there. Don't need a lot of that. We'll be using yellow later, so this is all going on a different plate actually. The reason why I use ceramic plates is they're easy to wash up and also very easy to mix on. Those little plastic palettes that you get with little circles in like that, they're very difficult to wash up. And also, you can't really mix that well. You can drag colours into different colours with a plate, which is much easier. Whoops, that's just a dry bit of paint that's come off the top of the bottle. I'll get rid of that though. Just pop it in my water there. Right, now some black going over here. This is black gouache. I'm putting it next to the black acrylic. And I may be using that. Some of the colours I might not use. I'll see how I go. Orange, a little bit of that for later on. Bit of brown, this is the blackish brown, which is called burnt, I think it's the burnt umber, this one. Yeah, burnt umber. The more reddy one is burnt sienna. But that's burnt umber. And then we've got a purple, just straightforward purple. I'm going to put it on this plate, the purple, because these colours are going to be mostly used for mountains, sky and lake, and these colours are going to be used for other things, but sometimes they will be mixed across for the tree colours and things like that. So getting straight into the painting now, and I'm going to use a biggish brush. You could use one like that, it wouldn't be a problem, but I'm going to try and use this bigger one because it will help me get across the page quicker. So the first thing you do, let's move these out of the way, drop of water on my brush, just squeeze it out a little bit. And then I'm going to dip into my two white colours. And I'm going to put it over here actually. I've got 3 plates, so I might as well use it. Put it over there. Good helping of blue going in. Mix it in. Bit more blue. A little bit of purple. Touch of gouache black, I think. The acrylic black would be too strong at this stage. So a tiny little bit there on the corner of the brush. I'm just going to put that in, mix it all up, and I've got a nice rich blue. There we go. Another tiny little bit of water going in it, like that, and a touch more blue, and I'm happy with that colour now. See, no editing in this. When you watch Bob Ross, he would have edited all this and it looked like he got it right first time. But when you're just doing it live, of course, you need to tweak things a little bit. But here we go. Now I'm going to start brushing. I'm going to start at the top because what I want to happen is I want it to go from darkish blue, medium blue, and gradually get lighter as we come down to the mountains. So when we do the actual mountains, they will show up clearly against the sky. If we was a darkish blue there and we were dark blue there, you wouldn't see the side of the mountain so well. So we need to come down and gradually blend. So here we go, blue going on now. Brush across like that to about there. Now I'm going to start adding white to my blue, but not all of it, just some of it. There's no point in lighting it all up. Might as well just put it there like that. See, that's a lighter blue now. And I'm going to put that there. Now I'm going to go pure white on my brush and nothing else, because I've already got some blue in the brush. So whatever's left in the brush with pure white, and that will be lighter there. See how much lighter that is? Now I can just brush around these mountains and then turn the brush and then blend back over where I did before. Like that. See that? And then you get this lovely blend. You don't want any stripes. Like that. And now I'm going to go pure white again in there. Doesn't matter if you go over the mountains a little bit. And just colour that bit through there. Now we don't want it to look like we went around the mountains like that. So what we do, we brush across again. Like that. Just smooth it out. Just gently smooth back over. All the way through like that. Now, as I did that, I wasn't pushing very hard with my brush. In fact, when I was coming up, I was just using the brush very, very lightly, and that's called feathering. And you just feather it in so that you lose all those kind of lines and you can blend it in. So I'm happy with that. I might go, actually I'm not happy with it. I'm going to go a little bit darker with my blue. Put a little bit more on there. A tiny bit more black and purple. So you can adjust things, okay? So when you watch this back through again, you can adjust things. And I want to show you, if you want to go a wee bit darker at the top, which I do, just by adding a little bit more blue and purple and a touch more black, I just want to darken that down through there a little bit more and then gradually bring it down again, like that. Here we go. So I'm happy with that. Now, something all my art club people will know, I have a hairdryer. And the reason why we use that is so that we can dry bits of our paintings off, so we can move on to the next stage. So I'll quickly dry this off. It doesn't take long. You can see the colour just changing slightly. When we do it, it starts to lighten slightly. Don't hold it too close. And if you're very young doing this, obviously get a parent to help you with it. If you're an adult doing it, you should be okay. Like that. Blend it through like that, just let it dry out. It doesn't have to be completely bone dry. There we go. Now what we're going to do quickly is we're going to stick some clouds in there. So I'm going to go now with a slightly smaller brush, and we will do the clouds in 2 phases. This is the first phase, 3 phases in fact, because we'll put some pale blue on, and then we're going to use white, and then we'll later on when the picture's almost done, we'll use some white chalks to soften the clouds even more. And with clouds, if you just use white straight away, you're not really going to have any shadows in it and all that. So if you look at a white cloud in the sky, there's a lot of shadows in there. And you can still see it's a white fluffy cloud, but it looks shadowy. So we're going to go with the pale blue that we had earlier. That's the pale blue I use for sort of round about there in my painting. Just move that way. So that's the colour we want, but just line it up a touch more with some white. And I'm going to position this cloud here. And this is not white by any stretch, okay? This is a pale blue. Here we go. So I'm just going to put a cloud here. Now clouds can be tricky, so watch. They tend to be taller in the middle and gradually fade out. And this is the way I do mine generally for a quick picture like this. So just put some clouds in like this. So this is blue, like that, and let it just fade out, like that. And then what I do is, with a clean finger, I just gently wipe the bottom of the cloud away, like that. Okay, and I'm going to put another one up there, same colour, like this, and keep the top uneven, fairly flat, like the sort of clouds you see over mountains, like warm air rising, like that, and then just dust that away with a finger, just gently wipe it. So we've got two pale blue clouds at the moment. Next stage is to wash your brush off completely and wipe it, give it a wipe off, get it nice and dry, and then go straight into your white acrylic there, that's white acrylic, and then we're just going to start to highlight them a little bit. Not just the top either, sometimes you get those little light bits around the side, here, like that, and just put those in. And just wipe the bottom away.
Network's gone, Mark.
Sorry?
Network's gone.
Oh, you're kidding.
Hang on, we're back now.
Oh.
Back. Just apologise.
Sorry about that, I think we had a break in the internet for a second, but we're back now. I hope you haven't been gone too long.
Just recap.
So I've been doing clouds, I went over with the pale blue cloud colour, and now I'm starting to use pure white. The clouds were still fairly damp, and now I'm using white acrylic over the top, like this. And sometimes you get those little bits of cloud that break off. You get those little ones that come away from a cloud, don't you? And they just sort of go away like that. They just fly away, like this. And we'll have another couple of bits over there. Now later on, we'll have some clouds coming through here too. Okay, but we'll do that with pastel. But not yet, we'll leave it for now. Next stage is to paint the side of these mountains, okay, the shadowy side. So we're going to use the blue that we used originally for the top of the painting, there. We're going to use it here, but we're going to change it a little bit. So have a look at the plate again. And that blue there is the blue I had for there. So now we're going to put more purple in it, some of that gouache black, touch more blue, like this, and a touch more black, I would say, just a little bit. Not the acrylic black, the gouache black. If you put a tiny bit of acrylic black in that, it will turn it all black. So just a little bit more there. So we've got this sort of greyish blue colour, fairly dark. And don't worry if your shade is not exactly the same as mine, because it doesn't matter. As long as you've got something similar, it really doesn't matter. Now we're going to start painting the side of the mountain in. So I'm going to put my glasses on for a second, and then here it goes. It's just coming in here like this, and the lines tend to go this way. So try and keep everything flowing this way, like that. And just drag it through. The lines that appear in it actually help us. It looks good if you've got the lines sort of coming through this way, like that. And here, this side of this mountain will be in dark as well, so that's going to be done as well. Using that same colour, just through here, like this. And that shadow is going to go down the side of that mountain there, and then reaches through, down through there, where there'll be a strip of trees through there later. Just brush that in, like that. Maybe come around that peak a little bit there. And there we go. And of course that will be in dark as well. So the light is definitely coming from slightly front and from the side, really zooming in there. Okay, now next thing, we're going to start to put the light side of our mountain in. So we're going to use pure white acrylic here, and I'm going to actually, well, I'll use that pale blue I've got there, an off-white, that really pale blue that I had, which I used for the lower part of the sky. So anything you've got there with a little bit of blue, touch of white, and I'm going to start putting that in now. And I'm going going to just put it on nice and fairly thickish, not too thick, but fairly thick. Not sure that was acrylic white. I'm going to put a little bit more acrylic white down. It doesn't look strong enough. And start to paint that again. So that's what I'm after. Yeah, like that. All these colours come down. We will put some shadows back over the top of the snowy side of the mountain, the white light side where all the sun is hitting it. That comes down through there, like that. And we'll have a few little lighter bits where you've got different shapes in the rocks and the light's being reflected differently, but it's predominantly dark on this side. But there are the odd little light bits, and we'll be putting even darker rocky bits on that side in a bit as well. And a little bit of light going in there, not too much. That's it, just rub it through if it gets a bit too strong, and then in there as well. And now I'm going to start putting in more light here. All the way through, brush it in, like so, and then I'm going to actually start to put some other bits and pieces on this side of the mountain as well, on this light side. So into the pale blue, little bit of black going in, not all of it, you just keep some of it to the side. Because what you're doing, if you don't colour a whole lot of each section, every little bit, you can start getting lots of different colours forming. If you look at an old master's palette, you see all these blobs of colour, and that's what they're building up as they're going along. So you get all these different colours forming. If I mixed all that into my grey, then I've lost that blue. So I keep little bits going. So I've always got the option of going back to that colour or whatever. So you know, it's pretty good to have that. That, however, isn't blue enough, so I'm going to just stick a little bit more blue from the main stockpile of blue, like that. Excuse me. And now I'm going to start to put in some shadowy bits on this side of the mountain, like rocky little crevices and stuff, like that. And then you can just rub them slightly. And when you rub them, it gives the impression, you know, it's not too strong, and you don't want to be too strong on this side anyway. Just rub that in. You get these little things forming. All notice that everything seems to be mostly running in that direction. Like that. And later on we can take a detail brush to this as well. We can pick out even smaller little bits and pieces. Like that. You're forming your own little world of rocks and stuff. Like that. And then on this side as well. Darker bits where you've got crevices and caves and things like that. Just use the tip of the brush. Let the brush goes on forever, because I don't always want loads of paint on my brush. Sometimes you just want it to be fairly, you know, almost dried up with paint. But that works well when you're working on a damp surface like that. So there we go. So we've got some light stuff now. It's definitely lighter on that side of the mountain than it is on this side of each mountain, so that's good. Now I'm going to mix up a slightly darker greyish colour now. So going back to this colour again, that bluey colour, we're going to put some more black in it, more blue. And now I'm getting quite sort of dark and greyish blue. This is going to mark out some of the smaller stuff in there. I want it to be much darker, so watch this. This is going to go in there. Is it that much darker? A little bit darker. I could do with it being a little bit darker than that, but I will come back to it. I'll just do some more bits and pieces here. Through there. Don't worry, I haven't got the virus, I'm fine. And then through there like that. And I might even just put the odd little bit, darkish bit over here. I'm hoping that's looking something like mountains. Like that. Yeah, not too bad. And then we're going to go with a smaller brush now. Now I'm going to use that one. It's a sort of a rounded one. This one, it forms a point. These are called flat. This is like a flat brush. There's a flat end on it. And this is a more rounded brush. Look, it's got a point on it. So now they're great for detail, obviously, if it's got a point on it. So you can go into your black, back into that bluey colour I had there. That brush is still with that because that's the colour it was. And I'm going to put some darkish bits in here now. Like that. But less and less of it, because you don't want to be too, you don't want to block out everything you did just now. You're just forming other areas of dark. Like this. And you can just bring some little new sort of very sharp, dark little gullies and things that people fall in when they're mountain climbing. What do they call them? I can't remember now.
Precipice.
Precipice. Things like that. There we go. And little bits of dark there. A bit more dark in there. And we're going to put a few on this side as well. So I'm going to, that little point there, I might just elongate that and just bring that down a little bit thinner. That one there. Nice little crevice there, so you can sort of see shapes forming, and then you can start to make them a little bit more of something. And you decide, you know, that's the nice thing about this, you decide where you want your little crevices to be, and little cracks and things like that. And, you know, this is miles and miles away, of course, all this. This is way in the distance. If there was someone standing there, you wouldn't see them, you know, it's that far away. It's about 30 miles away, 40 miles away. Like that. Just little bits and pieces going in. Every now and again I think I sound like Bob Ross. If you know who Bob Ross is. Right. Now back into the pure white acrylic again. And I'm just going to put in some stronger highlights, but not everywhere. Remember, this is light. We're not changing the whole colour of everything. We're just bringing in some lighter bits here and there. Sometimes a little bit of light got around the corner there. Like that. Okay. Now, you can play with that for as long as you like, can't you? Because you can pause me later. And you can spend as long as you like on that part of the painting until you're happy with it. Obviously, I don't have that. I'm gonna just put a bit more dark down here though, just creeping up through there. Right. Now the next thing to do, just fill that in. I don't know why I'm bothering, because there'll probably be a tree, or there will be a tree there anyway. So that sometimes I'm a little bit funny like that. I just like things to be just so. Now, just here, we're going to have a lake. But before the lake appears, there is a bank. It goes through there, and it will have some trees in the distance, and they will be reflected down into the lake. So I'm going to put another chalk line just through there. So you've got that. So you've got about 3/4 of an inch gap there. Now that will be done with a pale green, because that's going to be a lovely meadow at the bottom of the mountains. Not right at the bottom of the mountains, but the closest thing to the end of the lake that we've got. Those mountains are way behind the grass that's there. Okay, so for colour purposes and what we've got on our palette at the moment, we're going to paint the lake in. So look at my palette a minute. So I'm going to, that colour I've got there, mix it all up. That blue. I'm going to put some more blue in it. Some black gouache, a little bit purple. Mix it all up. And I'm going to put a bit more blue. Right, now, along the bottom of that line that I just did, I'm going to put this on. Are you ready? Here it goes. So it's nice and dark, like that. Nice, straight, flat line through there. That's the end of the lake, the other side of the lake. Going to go a wee bit darker than that. So a little bit more black's just gone into my paint. A little bit more black, I'll just put a little bit more in, and a touch more blue. I don't think it's dark enough yet. So here we go again, just darkening it down. All the way through like that. And just bring that down there, just run off the brush. Like that. Now, wash your brush out. And we're going to make a slightly lighter colour now. So blue at the side there, white and purple. I'm going to nick some of the colour we just used for that dark strip and a bit more blue. And that's our next colour. So that's going to then flow into that colour there. That's flowing into there. Going over what we just did a little bit. Come down there and then go across again. Like that. Let it come down the side of it. And always use horizontal strokes here for the water. You create ripple shapes then. When you get the lines formed, you start to create ripples. If you go up and down, you're going to lose the effect of water. So now's the next part. We're going to go straight into the white there, white gouache and acrylic mixed. It's got a little bit of blue in it, that doesn't matter. And I'm going to start it there in the blue that I've already done, and I'm just going to bring that across like that, and I'm going to come down into this area here. Nice and light now. Pure white on my brush here. Through there, like that. Let it just flow into the other colour above. Streak it in, like that. And as it runs out of paint, it doesn't block out everything that's already been done. It just puts a light skim over it, like that. I do want it to be darker in there though, so I'm going to go back into the blue, not too much on the brush, and I'm going to come back over the white here and work my way up. But this is my light area, I want that to remain quite light there. Like that. Let that flow through. Okay, so I want to put a few streaks over the blue though, so over the white. So there's my blue. Flatten the brush out. I'm still using that square one. You can use that brush. You could use that too. It wouldn't hurt. But I like to use this personally. And I'm just going to bring in some ripples through here. Now these are very light blue. Remember, don't go too strong. Otherwise it won't look right, because this is where the light is sort of shining on the water, and if you go suddenly with a very dark ripple, it won't look as good. So just keep it fairly light through here, like that. And we'll enhance that even more later when we get to the point where the paint has been dried, and we'll use some pastels there over the top. Now, change of colour. Complete change of colour now. We're going to use a nice light green here, a yellowy green, and then we're going to put some colours down the side of the bank here. And that will be all different shades of green, darkish greens, light greens. There's various techniques there to show you to make it look like grasses and stuff like that. The trees, which are going to be coming through here, as our little glimpse through to the mountains, they go in way later, because there's no point in drawing them in and then trying to colour around them. They actually go in over the top of everything else. So look at the colours on my plate again. Look, I've got that dark green there, blue, sorry, and I've got that blue, and I've got another little light blue there. I'll put some more white in there, look. And now, see this, remember the yellows and the greens I squirted out earlier? I'm going to put some yellow in that lighter blue there, giving me a nice light green. Put a bit of acrylic white with it, and it makes it go milkier. Put a little bit of yellow in it, and it warms it up. So I'm going to bring that through here. Here we go. And this is the bank, the other side, all the way through there. Nice light green, works nice with the blue below. Let that streak through. Try and keep it nice and straight. That end all gets covered soon with foliage coming up the side there. Rub it in a little bit, like that. There we go. So we've got this lovely strip of land. That won't all be one coloured. That will be, that'll have some other colours on it. I will darken it down now actually, a little bit of blue going into that green. And we'll put some dark areas on it. So here we go, look. And you can just put some dark bits on it. And as I said earlier, we can lighten up these certain bits as well with pastel. going to just streak down that green into the water a little bit, although you won't see too much of that later because we've got some trees coming up. Now, we're going to do some trees through here. I'm going to do those first before we do any other bits and pieces down there. So we're going to mix up a dark green. And this is where we start to use the acrylic black. We're going to take some of the acrylic black, just a small amount, and I'm going to put some just on the edge of that plate there, and some green with it, and just mix it in. And it really is, I mean, to you that might still look black, but that is a very, very, very dark green. I'm going to put a tiny little bit of yellow in it, like that. And I'm now going to start doing my trees. Now this is a good brush to use for trees because it flattens out like a blade. You push it down and it goes dead flat like a blade. Now, these trees are a long, long, long way away, so they don't want to be too, strong. It's all about technique here. So you just want to kind of like go along a little bit like this, and then just wiggle the brush up and down, and then you get these distant trees forming. They're all those little fir trees that you get, pine trees and stuff. They don't lose their leaves. And they're just going to go along like this. That underline there, the line underneath them doesn't have to be dead straight. You can go up and down a little bit. And then you just push them up. Look at that, you push them up to form all those trees in the distance. Just push it up. Some are taller than others. Like that, all the way along. Like this. Rub the bottom if you like, every now and again. Up we go again, loads of trees. Just covering the bottom of the mountains there. Like that. Like that, that's nice. I like that, I'm happy with that. So we've got a whole load of trees going in there. Might just do a couple of taller ones at this end. Like that. There you go. And then actually, by doing more like that, you get a layer happen. You got the first lot you did, and then by doing a few more, it looks like you've got trees in front of trees then, so that's quite a nice thing to do. Some are taller, like that. Up and down, and of course all that end will be covered later, so we haven't got to concern ourselves with that at the moment. Now we're going to do the reflection in the water. So we're going to use that dark green and we're going to mix it with that dark blue there. Just there, that. Okay, take all that green. Add some more blue to it and a touch more acrylic black, but when I say a touch more, I'm talking about a very small amount on the corner. I might even dab that off a little bit first, so I just want it to be quite dark and strong. The acrylic gives it the strength that you need to get over the other colours. So there's a very dark bluey green, almost black but bluey green. Now I'm going to start to wash this across below. Like that, all the way across the bottom of the bank, like that. And then I'm going to bring all these down. Now look at the top, we're trying to replicate that. So if you've got short trees, do short lines. If you've got a couple of taller ones there, come down lower. But you just drag it down, like that. Into the water, drag straight down into the water. Up there, and then we've got long ones there, haven't we? And then it goes like that. That one's a bit taller there. Like that. Wash the brush off. Like that. So there's nothing in my brush anymore and it's dry or dampish. And I'm going to streak through it. Just streak through them lightly. Okay, and then what that does, it makes it look slightly ripply in the water. Like that. Also that colour, I might just bring it down the side of my bank because when this has all got grasses on it, there would be a little bit coming over and putting shadow on the water. So I'm just going to bring that darker colour also just through here. A little bit through there like that. And there. So So back into that colour again and just bring this darker colour up. Not too much on the brush, you don't want to overwork it. Sometimes that's the main problem where people get stuck. They try to put too much, they put too much paint on their brush and they lose control of it. So this is that darkish bluey green colour. I'm just going to streak it in like that, and it just comes around the side of there like that. Look, horizontal strokes, and just let them drag out like that. Okay. Now you can use your finger a little bit if you want. Let me just do that. Okay. And later on, I'm going to bring some pastels through there once it's all been dried. So you can see things are coming along now quite nicely. Next job is all the foliage. We'll do foliage through here, foliage through there, paint the track, shadow the track, and then bring more foliage up so it looks like it's going over the track slightly, so it doesn't look like it's too perfect and precise. We don't want it to look like somebody went along the edge with shears. It's got to look natural, like it just happened, it grew there. So let's start mixing up some different greens. So we've got dark green here, a bluey green. Let's put a bit more green in it. Acrylic black, so we get a really strong, rich dark green. Put some yellow in it to warm it through a bit, so it gives it that warmer green look. And there it is, a dark green with some yellow in it. Now I'm going to start to come down. Now remember, this is 50 metres away, this is quite close up. So everything down this end of the track needs to be slightly smaller and getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that way you'll get a sense of perspective in your painting, okay? So down this end, I'm going to go nice and small, like this. And I'm not going to do the same colour everywhere. Let it streak up. It won't look very good to begin with because there's lots of other colours to go in, but as I'm brushing away, look, I just sort of feather that out just so it looks like grasses and stuff like that. And as I come down here, I'm going to get a bit darker through here, just streak it up, and maybe just a touch darker down the bottom there at the side of the track. But it's a wiggle, it's that. See that movement? It's just literally wiggling it up and down, across here like that. Now I'm going to come down this side. So far we've only got one green on the go, and that's going to be added to in a minute. But so just down the side of here I'm going to go green, and down there quite dark in that area there. Alright, just lifting up. Every time I want it to be a sort of a...
Hang on a minute, Mark.
Is it on again? Ah. How long did it go for?
Not long.
Back?
Okay, we're back.
Okay, sorry you went away for a little bit again. So just a little bit of a wiggle going on with the dark green, and for the details you bring out. I know we're painting that track in a minute, so it's not so important on this side because we'll be painting over the grasses there, so don't worry about that side. If this side, you can use a bit more precise grass structures on the tops of it all. And now we're going to bring some other greens in. So I've got that dark green. I'm going to bring a yellowy green, that yellow into that green, like that, and a touch of white. Like that. So now I've got a lighter green, but I want to go even lighter than that, so I'm going to put more yellow ochre in. Here we go, so we've got a much lighter green now, and we're going to start putting that in. Flatten out the brush, make sure there's not too much paint on there. And here we go again. So down here, just starting to fill in other areas where I haven't been, and sometimes going over areas where I have been. It doesn't matter, like this. You can do what you want to a point and just streak it up. Like that. Lovely, rich, yellowy greens coming up there. Going through there like that. And on this side. And that's just going to be like that. And don't forget later on as well, we'll be putting in pastels and stuff and making everything look a little bit more detailed down this end. Like that. Now back into the dark colour. I want to make a dark green again, so black acrylic. That I'm going to turn half of that into a darker green, just by putting black acrylic into it. A little bit of yellow, and what I've got there as well, like that. So a very dark colour again, touch more black. This is acrylic black. Flatten out the brush, and then you can start to put in some darker greens down here. Come up the side there. And darker in that corner there. Okay, so I'm going to go a little bit darker under there because I think there would be a shadow all the way under there. So small at the back now. I might actually change brush now, that's getting a bit big. So I'm going to go to this rounded one again and just come down the side here. Like that. Flick up so it looks like grasses and stuff. Don't paint along like that. Don't do that because you'll lose the effect. And I'm just going to do these little flick ups. Dip into the paint every so often and just bring it up. Like so. And then I'm going to do another little band of darkish meat. I've just brought a little bit of that yellowy green into that green there. And now I'm going to do some little flick ups here. Look at that. And start at the bottom. I'm not going both ways, I'm only doing it from bottom upwards. These little grasses coming up. And there'll be flowers going in there in a bit as well. Flowers can be done with pastels. You get those lovely, the grass is coming over the edge of the lake there, looks nice if you can do that. Nothing too thick, like that. Alright, I'm going to come away from that for a minute. Okay, so we've got some colour on there. It's not done yet, that bit, don't worry about it. There will be other things going in through there in a minute. Okay, so the next job is to do the lane. So now this is the colours for the lane. Acrylic white, put some brown in it, like that. A little bit of yellow ochre, or if you haven't got yellow ochre, you could use yellow with a bit of brown and a bit of white. That will make yellow ochre. A little bit of yellow ochre going in. Lots of water, quite a bit of water on this one, like that. And now I'm going to start to put the colours of the track in. And it's just going to go like this from side to side for now. There'll be other colours going in with it in a minute, because we've got shadows and textures to go in. But this will do for now. And you can leave little gaps even. Work the brush horizontally across, like that. Okay. And I'm going to leave that little gappy there. I like that, like that. And that lane goes off around there somewhere, out of view. There will be a tree there, and obviously that will hide the edge of what that is there. Now we've got to do the shadowy colours on the lane. So we've got that creamy brown that we made earlier, just now, and then we're going to add some more brown to it. And acrylic, a gouache black I think this time, a little bit of gouache black on the tip of my brush. Put that in. Now this is a sort of a more textured shadowy colour coming in. Now because the light's coming from this side, isn't it, sort of through there, most of the shadows on the lane will be coming off of these grasses. So, but there will be shadows elsewhere because there's little textures on the lane as well, on the track, because there's stones and it's not dead flat. So you can put all these in like this. Keep it horizontal still, like that. So it corresponds with the grasses which are sticking up that way to the shadows going that way. So it just goes like that in there, and that will be darker in there in a minute as well because it's still a bit light. If it's very dark at the bottom of those grasses, the shadow coming away from it would be just or almost as dark as that too. That's just coming away. A few stones there causing other little shadows, but most of the shadow is coming from this side. Like that. Okay, we'll leave that light there, that looks quite nice light there. Right, now let's go with a darker shadow colour. So that original shadow colour we had there, we're going to add more gouache black to it. But be careful when you're adding it, because you want to add things, if you do it carefully, you won't muck it all up and have to start from scratch. There we go. There's a nice dark colour. I'm going to use that next. That's going to go in. And it works with the other colours. It doesn't block the other colour out. It doesn't hide the other colour. It's to work with it. See how that's working with it. It's still not dark enough yet for my final shadow colour, but it's getting there. Like that. Fill that in there, a few specks. Like that. Now a darker shadow colour, so more black going in, and this time I'm going to add a little bit of purple and a touch of orange because I'm losing that warmth otherwise. So there, just a little bit of purple, black and orange went in. And this should do it. Like that. All the way up, and as you go up you get narrower and narrower where it's getting further away. A couple of shadows down there, because there will be some of these little grasses coming over there in just a few. Okay. Let's bring those grasses over. Dark greens here, going back to this colour. Flatten out that brush again, that'll be fine. That one there. And then you can bring some grasses up, coming over the track from this side, but it's a very, very fine touch with a brush, nothing too strong. Nothing too strong at all, just the very tip. Like that, and then you get these grasses just coming over the edge of the path there. A few bits and pieces up there as well. Put some in there, just dot around any little places. Don't worry too much because there will be some pastel work. We're going to have a lot of light through here in a bit, and there'll be light coming up the side here, and I want to show you some pastel techniques over the top of the dried gouache paint in a minute. Right, so now we're going to bring see this through here, I'm looking at that and it's dried a little bit light. I want to come back to that, so I'm going to put a little bit of black in there, black acrylic. I'm going to put it in that blackish bit there, a bit more green with it, drop of water. You can pause all this if I'm going too quick, of course, later on, so don't panic, you'll just pause it at that moment just for a few seconds to recap and then you'll be able to do it. I just felt that that wasn't dark enough through there, so I'm going to make that darker. There we go, and drag those trees down again. I couldn't see them enough and it was bothering me, so I'm going to just do that. Sometimes these paints, you think you've gone dark and then you realise, oh, that's not dark enough, so you sometimes have to go back over. Now, a brush again with nothing on it. Okay, just a little drop of water on there. I'm going to wash that out a bit better than that. Squeeze the brush out so it's quite damp. That's just a damp, clean brush. And again, I'm just going to bring the ripples through the trees that I've just dragged down again. Alright, like that. And you can bring a few down. Like that. Next job is to do the tree at the side here. Now, a lot of people will be thinking, oh God, I don't want to do that. Don't worry about it, it'll be fine, okay? There's a few different layers to that tree. But it's one of those trees that starts off fairly fat at the bottom and it has all these little bits coming through and it just narrows off and our peak will be about there. The top of the tree will be about there. Alright, so it's going to start about there, stick out over the lane a little bit and end up there. Don't come up too far because you'll end up losing the mountains. Now watch the palette again. This green is going into that dark blacky colour which I had for my darkest shadowy colour, so that can all go in there as well. A bit more black, acrylic that was, blue, yellow, so I've got a really rich dark green, and it's not going to be all that colour but that's just the start of it, and it's going to start down here. Actually I'm going to go a bit lighter with that, so put a bit more yellow in, just a touch lighter, a bit more yellow gone in. Right, so here we go. So at the bottom, just going to start to bring this out. Now I'm going to change brushes because that brush has been wet for a while. It's not forming a blade anymore. Even though I've pushed that down, the blade effect has gone. It's bulked out. So I'm going to get another brush. Won't be a second. I've got loads over here. And now, one that forms a flat edge. So that's another one. That should form a flat edge, hopefully when it's wet again. So back into the paint, flatten it out, yeah, and we've got the blade back. See that? See the difference? Where's the other one gone? There. See that? That's a blade. That one's gone fat. So that one goes away for a while. That'll be alright, that brush, not ruined, it's just that it needs drying out for a while. It'll be back to normal. These brushes, you can use them for about an hour, they tend to get a bit, they swell. So here we go. So brush the bottom part of the tree on, then the next bit goes up, and I'm sort of leaving little, sort of doing kind of little fingers going out. And I'm not drawing the tree first, notice, because it's easy to just put the tree on, let it flow while you're painting it. And it's just going to come up from the side there. It will start to look more tree-like, like this. And remember, in a mow, it will start to go a bit more pointed. Like this. And we've got these little bits that hang down. So you form these little bits and then these little drops coming off of them. Like that. Just keep working your way up. Now I'm going to start bringing it in from the side. You see from there, there'll be a gap through there now. Like that. And remember, the edges want to look nice. Sometimes you get some that just come out a little bit further than others and just gives it a natural look. Like that, and as it goes up, like that. And then it's going to get to about there, and then it starts to turn the brush, and you start to do a point. Like that. Fill in any little gaps which are too far in, won't look right otherwise. Like that, and then you've got this lovely tree, and of course that's just one colour so far. We'll be putting light on that and shade, and that's that tree at the side. Let that just shadow underneath a little bit through there, like that. The other tree is going to come up through here. So I have light on it through there. So look down at the palette again. So more green, like that. Black acrylic going into it. So you get a rich green, a little bit of yellow. And this tree, I'm going to do it a bit darker than that one because it's nearer and it's coming off the side of this bank. And it's going to start around about here. So there it goes, like that. Just coming out the side there. Getting narrower as it goes up. Let these little branches come out, like that. That can be quite dark under there because obviously it's putting a shadow across it. And I did this painting yesterday as a little practice and I made the tree come up all the way, but do you know what? On this one I'm going to have this one as if it was a younger tree and it's just going to come up to about a little bit more than that. That'll do. Just have it at the side there like that and just bring a few little bits and pieces coming out. Okay, that's it. I think that's enough on the show there. Now the thing is, you can't get by with just one colour on a tree, so now we've got to make some other colours for the trees because you've got light and shade. So this side of this tree will be much darker. So the colour that I used for that tree, that very dark green, I can use it for the side of this tree and any under branches that I want to do. So any of these ones here that have got anything, you know, where you want to put a little bit of shadow on that side, but predominantly the shadow is on the left. Alright, like that. So we've just got a little bit here and there. Like that. And it gives it a bit more form. You can sort of see there's a bit more form appearing there. This one, I'm going to darken that original colour that I painted it with more acrylic black. So we've almost got jet black. It's not jet black, it's very, very dark green. And I'm just going to put in some shady bits here. Like that. I don't want to come too close to the edge because there's a bit of light going to be licking around the edge of that tree later, so there's no point in darkening it all down. I'm just going to put a bit of dark under each bit, like that, here and there, like so. Like that, a little bit under there. Oh, yeah, that's it. That'll do for me, like that. Now that dark colour, I think I might use a little bit more of it to just come up the side here, like that. And let that green also go onto the path a little bit, because sometimes it's nice to just have a bit of the colour that's there in that colour. It makes all the painting flow nice and gives it a nice look. Like that. Okay. Anywhere else where you see little bits and pieces? That's it, just little touches. Now we're going to make the lighter green now so we can show some light on those trees. So it's going to be yellow, and I mixed that yellow all together, and it had a bit of green in it because I had a dirty brush. So it's yellow with a little bit of green in it, and white acrylic going in as well, so we get a nice creamy green colour. Touch more green going in and a bit of blue. Touch more blue. So you get a bluey light green. Like that. Again, it doesn't matter if your shades aren't exactly the same as mine. I'm just going to tap out some of the paint out of that brush and dip in again, and I'm going to put it on with the blade effect again, and I'm just going to tease these light bits in to the tree here and there where you think it should be seen. Sometimes you want to leave shadows, and this will be enhanced later as well with pastel. It's not just paint we're going to use, as you know, there's a bit of pastel going over, but this helps it, like that. And that same light green, I'm going to bring down under here, flick it up where you think, and over here there's some little gaps in there where I can still see paper, so I'm going to just gently wiggle some light greens into that. Up and down strokes, of course, so it looks like foliage. Up and down, oh, that's the right one, that's the right one. And then that's just going to show that, and let that drag down, rub it down. Sometimes I use my fingers, always good to use whatever you've got. And a little bit light through there as well. Now that light is gorgeous because it really does give that, like the sun's coming round. A bit more light on some of these, but again, as I say, the pastel will do a lot of that for us later, and I'm going to just bring some light which is just licking around the side of this tree, like that. Just coming around like that. Remember, it's those sort of lovely fern type branches that, so they've got like little, you know, lots of little fingers on them, so you're not going to do each finger, but you're just giving the impression of that. And then the light is coming down through there. Okay, might just put a little bit of that green up there as well, there. Nearer the bank, nearer the actual water's edge. Just through there. Sometimes when you're painting, you sort of think, oh, I'll do that. I didn't intend to do it, but a little bit of that green coming through there and all. It's one of those sort of paintings where you kind of like can do things and make things up as you're going along. I don't like that there. I'm going to just bring that out. Like that. Right, that'll do for me for the moment. Now we've got to dry it, and the rest of the painting pretty much is pastels. Okay, so don't worry. I mean, some of you might be painting along with me now, but I hope you're keeping up all right. But of course, it doesn't matter because you can always watch it later. You know, live. Sorry, not live. Afterwards, and you can pause stuff and watch it. Now it's time to dry again, because obviously, when you're putting pastels over a painting, you can't go over wet paint at all. Everything's got to be completely dry. There, really. Okay, that's dry. Okay, so earlier I got a handful of pastels out of my pastel box. All these different colours. It doesn't matter if you haven't got the same colours as me, but I just grabbed anything. Okay. Now, I want to start putting some light in different places. Let's put some light at the side of the tree here. I'll tell you what, don't do that. Don't do that, scrap that idea. Let's concentrate on the sky first. So white chalk, and I'm going to bring in some more clouds through here, and I'm going to put some highlights on these ones. Glasses down. So these chalks, they just give a little bit more of a highlight to the clouds. Look, they show a lot whiter because that paint has dried off a bit. And again, just push up the top with a clean finger, smudge out the bottom, and you can just put some highlights on those clouds. A little bit on that one there. Don't block out everything. A little bit on those little break-offs. Break-off clouds there, the baby clouds coming away there. Down here, we're going to have, now remember, lower down to the horizon is further away. Those clouds are a lot further away than them ones. Them ones are above us. These ones are further away, so they're lower down in the picture. So you can have some fine clouds coming along like that, and they go along, and they're in the distance, and just streak them through like that. Another one there maybe. It doesn't even matter if they go over the mountains slightly, you don't want to lose too much of the shape of the mountain, so just let that go like that. Rub in the bottom. Now to warm the sky, we're going to use that colour, which is a sort of a creamy, yellowy, browny colour, like that. It's not too brown, it's a creamy yellow. And if you use this in the sky, look, you can put it on your clouds lightly. It gives the impression that you've got that sort of warm afternoon sun coming along, and it's just putting a little bit of a warm sort of glaze on everything that's white. A little bit on that, a little bit on these bits here. And also on our mountains as well, I'll just do a bit more there. A warm haze in the sky. And obviously putting yellow on with paint earlier would have been a nightmare because we're doing blue, and if we put yellow on we would have got a green sky. So that just helps with the haze, that warm haze through there. And I'm going to put some on the mountains, not everywhere, just here and there. Otherwise we're just going to make it all one colour. We're trying to create something that looks different, and different textures and different colours help with that. Here we go, so we've got some warmth now on there. Real shaft of light coming through there from the sun. A real nice bit of light coming through. Just let that drag in. And I'll tell you what, we'll put some yellow with that, actually real, proper yellow colour. Put some of that through there. That lovely light coming through onto that bank in the distance. The side of that tree is going to get yellow now. I'm going to do it now so that just little bits of yellow going on, like that. Up the side, and just rub it in. Now, when you're rubbing it in, it makes everything that you did before look a bit smooth, which is annoying unless you know how to deal with that. And the way you deal with it is to take a damp brush, clean damp brush, push it into a blade again, so it's just got a little drop of water on it, not much at all, just a little bit. And you can use this brush to take some of the pastel off, and that gives you the texture back. But leaves the light there. So you're only wiping some of the light away, and you're getting back that shadowy texture again with more light on it. There you go, like that. And look at that texture we're getting in that tree now. It looks quite sort of really like we've spent hours on it. Of course we haven't. It looks like we have, but we haven't. Like that. Take some of that off a little bit through there. Not too much on it. Now the other thing is to put some light down on this side of the grass. So again, that yellow can go in. Put it through strong. Rub it in. Of course it's too smooth. But we know that all the details we did are underneath. So we can reveal some of that detail again by just taking off the pastel like this. And you just use your grasses like that. Up and down wiggles, and we get all that texture back with light on it this time instead. And there you go, like that. Alright, so there's nice textures going on there. Here, I'm going to put some light there and a little bit up here, but not all the way along it. I don't want it to look like just got a band of light. So just a little bit up here, a little bit maybe there, just catching, and a lot there. A lot there. Alright, we'll rub that in. That. And let's use the damp brush again. Clean brush again, wipe off and form a point, a blade. And then just wiggle in these. These are small little grasses up there. And then we're getting bigger. Like that. The light's all there, but we've got the texture of the grass again. Now we need some light on the side of this tree. Just little bits here and there. Now you might be thinking, well, the light's coming that way, why have we got light that way? It's coming round and we're getting some light through there, so that's why I'm keeping that quite dark. We can't see the light on the other side of that tree because it's off the page, but we are getting some light just creeping round the edge of that tree there, and again, damp brush technique, and start to pick out bits and pieces like this. Like that. Okay. Now, I'm going to go and use a white chalk here, and I'm going to put in some extra light bits. Now, where the light is hitting it stronger, here and there. Like not everywhere, just here and there. Like that. And then this blue pastel, you're going to put in on this side. Now, this is the shadow side, but of course, some of the shadows are going to be lighter than some of the darker shadows because of the texture of the rock. So some shadows will be lighter, and we can show that at this point now. There we go, look at that. Just those little light bits, rub them in a little bit if you want, like that. Not too much. Put some over on this side, doesn't that? Like that. Alright, the next thing we've got to do is put some flowers on it. Down here, we're going to have some flowers and bits of foliage. I've also got a black pencil somewhere. Now this black pencil, when you use it lightly over greens and things, it will look green. It gives quite a lot of texture Alright, it's got a bit of a point on it, not too sharp. And I'm just going to drag through these colours and put some extra grasses in. It's easier than trying to do it with a thin brush, and they can come up as high as you like, and it just gives a bit more texture and detail. On the side of these branches you could just bring the odd little feathery texture through. It just looks like you've been spending hours on it with a paintbrush, but of course you haven't. And any little bits and pieces like that, and same on this one, but I don't think that one needs it. I'm going to put a bit more grass just up here, and then the odd little bit up here. Remember, the further away, the smaller it all gets. More grass is just looking over here like that. Now, use that lightly, a black pencil. Just an ordinary colouring pencil, that is, just a black one. Don't use the greens, because some of those green colouring pencils, they look so jelly baby green that they don't look so good. So you want the black does it as long as you go lightly over green. So see, got that nice texture there. Now the flowers I'm going to have are going to be purpley ones. That pastel is well, it's actually a chalk, is a very pale purple, and I've got a dark purple to work with it. So I'm going to start up the end here, doing little dots, little clusters, and rub it, because they're so far away, those little mountain flowers, that there's hundreds grouped together, so it looks more like smoke up there, more smoky. And as you come down, get a little bit more detail, keep it clustered, don't let it look like a spotted handkerchief, don't dot them all, space them all out, it doesn't look so real when you do that. Like that. And as you come down, they start to get bigger, cluster them. Then and again you get the odd one on its own. Little clusters, not going too high up because they're the banks, grasses and that. And then down here we go a little bit lighter and bigger. These ones are really close up, aren't they? Like that. Just dab them on. Up here rub them on, down here dab them on. Alright, so we've got some flowers. On this side we're going to have some flowers as well. There's a few little dotty ones up here. And then we get bigger. And the lovely pastel light purpley colour shows well against the dark greens. Like that. Okay, now the darker purples. We do this so that it looks like you've got shadows on those flowers. Alright, if you just do one colour, it looks like every single flower is exposed to light as much as the one next to it, and sometimes that's not the case, so you just put some darker purple ones in it, just here and there, just to break it up a bit, like that. Couple more there. Next thing, I want a bit more light on that path. Going back to that pastel again, that creamy light one. Now you could use white with a tiny little bit of a pale yellow even, couldn't you? You could use the two colours together, but it so happens I've got that colour. So I'm going to put it in. Now this is light on the track. Rub that in. And this will give us the light, the sunlight coming across onto our track, through the centre. Like that. Not everywhere. And you can just gently rub that away. Like that. That's all it needs. That's all that needs, just a little bit of light through there. Now looking at that corresponding light there, that doesn't seem strong enough, so I'm also going to use this pastel to put in some little bits of light on this tree, just here and there where it's just picking out a little bit more light than the other time we did it. Like that, and just let that drag in. I won't use the damp brush over the top this time because there's no real need, because we've only done a little bit anyway. Just let that drag through, maybe a little bit on this side here and there. Like that. Bring some of these up. Not too many. like that. Now, last few bits, white pastel. It's going to gently streak through, creating some ripples. Like this. Go to the powder blue further back, where the blue gets darker, and you can just do the odd little arc there. Then, with a clean finger, I've got 2 dirty fingers, that one there is clean, I'm going to just rub that through. Like that. And that, I think, is it. I could do a little bit more yellow there. And there we have our lovely mountains and track. I'd love to be walking along there. It'd be lovely, wouldn't it? When we can all go on holiday again in a few months' time, hopefully we will be able to do that. I hope you've enjoyed doing that. I've really enjoyed doing that painting for you guys. And remember, you can easily just watch this again on YouTube or on Facebook, and you can pause it, and then you can take your time with it and really lose yourself in it. How long did that take? It's 20 past 3. It's actually taken longer than I thought. An hour and 15 minutes. Yesterday it took me 45 minutes, but I've had to talk a lot more today, so that's where the time's gone. Alright, I hope you've enjoyed it, and look forward to seeing you all back at the art club very soon. I'm going to do some more tutorials. I'm going to do some ones which aren't live, and I'm going to post them up on Facebook. I'll put them on YouTube as well, and we'll do some other paintings. We'll do some still lives and some other different scenes that you might enjoy doing along with me. For now though, I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll catch you all later. Take care guys, bye bye.